Welcome to Devalued with Mike and Caroline, the place where we talk about art and money and how creative people are navigating the ever-changing landscape of trying to make a living for their work.
We're going to be interviewing all types of creative people, and we'll be talking about all types of issues that creative people face. We hope you'll get something out of it. We're excited to welcome you to Devalued. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Caroline.
Who are we talking to today?
Today we're talking to John Colpitts from the band Oneida, and his own solo projects are awesome, Man Forever and Kid Millions.
Such a nice guy. We got kind of deep there.
Yeah, it got pretty heady and emotional, and we got into some real raw territory about just the realities of being a working musician and a professional musician that's trying their best to make a living at this.
Yeah, I really enjoyed his insights and a lot of tips, I think, for bands trying to navigate this territory.
Yeah, I agree. I hope you enjoyed this conversation, so let's get into it.
Let's do it. So we kind of start off the show just asking, what do you think about the relationship between art and money?
That's a great question. I mean, okay. Well, oh God, I don't want to sound stupid. I mean, you really, okay, like, you need it, right? You need it to make your work. You need money. But, you know, it just depends on where you're getting it from, right? I don't really think you can get it from your work. You could. I mean, people do. But it's just not like unless you're one of the really, really fortunate, lucky, one in a 2, 3, 5,000 person or band. I don't think it's something you can do consistently or have an expectation of making money off like creative work, let's say. I don't. Well, anyway, I mean, they're totally intertwined, but they're also kind of in opposition, I think, as well. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a completely great answer. I mean, when we were talking to David Kilgour last week from The Clean, and he was saying, we asked him the same question, and he goes, they don't belong together, and they absolutely belong together.
Okay, so he just had a better answer, a more concise answer. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
right.
when you got started playing music with a band, I mean, I know Oneida's been around for 25 years, and was making a living at this like even a consideration at all?
Not even remotely. It was definitely not part of it from the beginning. I think we knew that it wasn't possible. I think I had worked at the Knitting Factory, which is a venue in New York, that at the time, it was like the mid-90s, it was like the premier, like, for-profit experimental music venue in the world, right? For-profit in big quotes. You know, I saw the door figures every night. And I used to laugh because people would be like, oh my God, the Knitting Factory is doing so well. You know, every time I go there, it's like sold out. And it's like, yeah, that's because you go to the sellout shows. There's like so many other shows that nobody comes to. And I think I knew that. I experienced it. I booked tours and I booked the club I just was right out of college, and I just saw the reality. Like, no one really made any money, and everybody, you know, I mean, I think Oneida is explicitly, I mean, I think when we started, it was like, we're not going to make money doing this, and we don't want to have that, you know, dictate what we do. So we just are always driven by the work, for better or for worse. It's not like, it's probably not super fun to be our label, to work with us, So, and I think, but it was very explicit. We were always going to have day jobs, and that changed for me like maybe 17 years after I had started Oneida. But
what changed?
Well, I turned 40, and I was like, gee, like, maybe, up until then, I was like, people are asked a lot of, well, not a lot, but I would get people requesting, oh, are you available to play? And one thing that happened was that at the time, like, I know like somebody who works with Sufjan Stevens, and at the time she was like, Sufjan's looking for a drummer like Kid Millions, and she's like, I happen to know him. So it was like, oh, interesting. Well, maybe I could audition for his band, But I had a job. I was like a manager in IT. And I kind of looked at this. I just was like, I can't. Like, I can't even audition. Who knows if I would have gotten the gig, the people he hires are the highest of the high level. But it just got me thinking. And then I had canceled a gig. A very last minute, I had been asked to play with the Boredoms. I played with them for many years, about 10 years, and then there was a gig where it was like, we got to go to Australia, and my job was, they kind of were fed up with me. Like, I was not like really plugged in, and they actually fired me. But in the room where they were firing me, I like talked my way back into the job, and then they were like, you need to take a break, and you can't like go on tour during the break. And so it was like, I was like, cool. So like a week or so, and they're like, yeah. And I'm like, all right, well, let me I'll tell you like when I can take that week, and I was like going to go to Australia for that week. And then for whatever reason, I like decided at the last minute, oh, I gotta, I can't, I have to keep my job. It was, you gotta pay rent. But also, I think it was a bad decision. I didn't go to Australia. And at that moment, I was like, okay, I gotta try to do this. People are asking me to play. Who knows what kind of opportunities would open up if I was available. And yeah, so I quit. I said, okay, I'll quit in a year. So I did. I kind of worked my way up, and for a year, I tried to put money aside, and I did it. My current wife, really encouraged my wife, she was my girlfriend. That maybe you can cut out that current wife. That wasn't not a. But you know what I mean? Like she was my girlfriend at the time. Now she's my wife. But she really encouraged me to quit. Which is just, she was just like, I wasn't happy, and I don't think, it was, in a way, it's a big sacrifice. It was a big sacrifice for her, because I ended up like I played drums with Spiritual Eyes, so I was away for like a lot. And so it's like not, but she kind of was seeing what it was like for me to have this job. I had a lot of responsibility, and I got paid well, but it was not I wasn't happy. So
I was watching this interview with you, and you were saying, I think it was like from like 5 years ago or something, and you were talking about this collaboration you were doing with Jans Tiersen, and
Oh, you mean Jan St. Werner
yes, Jan St. Werner. I'm
from
sorry.
Mouse on Mars?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mouse on Mars, and
Yeah.
you were saying that at the time you wanted to focus on becoming a professional musician, and this gig was going to be a free gig, and that you were glad that you did it because it was such a beautiful experience for you. But how many? I'm always curious about how many experiences could you have that are free that you turn down, that you regret, or how do you judge the things that you choose to do?
You try to do your best. I mean, I think I've turned down things that maybe I should have done. Not a lot. I think you just I mean, I played for free for 20 years. You know what I mean? Like, I played those stupid gigs at 3 a.m. on a Wednesday night for some band I played those gigs. I mean, and after a while, there's no surprises. And I don't mean to say, it's hard, right? Because I know I can sound cynical, but there's a certain moment. I think that particular thing was real. I had my full-time job, and I was in this band, a bunch of fun, weird people. But there was a gig on a Wednesday night, and I think we went on at 3. And it was I was okay, I quit. Everyone's like, why? What happened? It's are you kidding me? I mean, and plus the situations are not really they're not conducive to you and your music. Everyone, it's this thing where people are trying to be a badass. I fucking played to no people in Tucson, on a Tuesday night. I've done all that. I done it. And I think it was just me being if it's great, if it's somebody I really want to play with, I'll do it. I think but yeah, with the Jan thing, it was a weird moment. I almost didn't do it because I was well, it's I don't play for free. But, it turned out it was a really cool thing. I mean, I ended up we made an album, and we played a few shows here and there together, and we had gotten to be friends. And so that's really worth it. So it's kind of I think you have to, there's I'm sure so many people have given you this, but there's the equation, right? It's what's the money like? What's the hang like? And what's the music like, right? And if you have 2 out of 3, you're in good shape, So if you don't have 2 out of 3, then you should probably pass. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of something to function with. Or if there's something else you're going to get out of it, Are you going to make a connection with a venue, or is it something, or with a promoter, or with a musician, with a community that you've never connected with? You never know where those things will lead. So I guess that would be how I think about it.
Yeah, that's a really great way to consider it, I think. And I hope a lot of the people that listen to this will be looking for nuggets like that, where they can apply it to themselves, and especially in their career forward. It's a good thing to consider those variables.
Right. I mean, you got to remember too, as I said, I spent 17 years basically playing for free. So I made a lot of connects. I mean, I did the work. I hustled and whatnot. So I think it's like now, but I don't get asked to do a lot. So there's that too. So you always have to kind of make your own opportunities in a way. So if it's your own thing, you figure out what you're going to get paid, hopefully try to pay yourself, but sometimes that's not going to work out.
Making your own opportunities has been like a through line, I think, through at least Oneida's trajectory. Because even when you were getting started, you kind of hosted your own parties, and you would you put your own keggers on away from like the regular venues and things like that. And that's something that like bands are still doing here in Nashville. And that's something that Caroline's been doing for forever.
You have to.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll bet. Nashville must be so competitive. I can't even imagine.
It's more cooperative than you might think. It's a nice community for sure.
Oh, amazing. Well, let's get back there soon.
Yeah, please.
So like when you're starting out, where does the drive, do you think, come from? Is it just like the excitement of sharing music, or like throwing a party, or like is it like being cool? Like what does the drive to like do your own thing come from, do you think?
That's good question. Well, I mean, it's exciting. I think, Jesus, I don't know. I'm trying to put myself back in that. Well, originally, it's just fun, right? I mean, it's just fun to get together and maybe you can play and there's this celebratory nature of that, for that, no matter what the context, whether you're playing a shitty bar or at a frat or whatever, or the coffee house. There's something about it about like presenting the tip of the iceberg, right? There's like so much that went into this, and you're finally kind of brave enough to put it in front of people, and then you hope will enjoy it. And yeah, I think there's an element where you're not, you want to become somebody else. You want to, kind of forget all your personal flaws and shortcomings and kind of present a front that seems like successful and practiced. And I don't know. I think there's this it's like this complicated like web that connects that like, well, why do you do it? It's like, well, it kind of goes back to like when you first hear music that moves you. That was for me. I honestly, I didn't even think like, oh, you can play music. I never thought you could. I just was listening to the radio and thinking it's like, I would sit there and, enraptured for hours. I mean, listening to soft rock radio, let alone, whatever, that was kind of what was around. And just sitting there for hours, just waiting for the next tune, wondering about, not even knowing, I think as a kid, I grew up in the country, and it was like, there were some department stores like that had music sections, and you kind of go there and see there's records there. You wouldn't even imagine like how they got there or who was involved. I didn't get the magazines. I didn't know. So I think, but it was like experiencing the music and feeling excited and I guess, fully. Yeah, I think it was a great escape and a great, supplement or like, to whatever kind of pain you're in or difficulties you're in. And so I think on the other side of that, when I did just figure out, well, there's people who play music. I got to high school and like, oh, there's a band and there's drums and they just play these songs. Like, wow, I could do that. Or it was like, I think it was like, you're just so naive. You think like, I can play drums. I mean, it's not true. I mean, it's true, but it's also not true. But it's like you think you can do it. And I guess I think I was just so, it's a naivete. I sat down, joined a band and I think it was so much. I mean, I identified with music so much. I think it was like a lifeline. It became less of, I don't think it's a great thing to identify with it and have it be your whole thing, like maybe for your whole life, maybe, I don't know. But for that time, it was like so essential. And I think, you just want to like be a part of it, and it's magical, right? It's like alchemical experience when the 3, 4, 5 people get together and make a sound. It's pretty magic. It's magic when you have it happen. Whoa, like we're all entrained, and that is the kind of exciting thing at first, I think.
Knowing what you know now, and having experienced, a long career, what keeps you going now? Because you're still putting out music and you're still touring. What's keeping you going now?
And your last album was called Success, which I don't know if it's laced with irony or not.
Well, what do you think? What keeps me going? Well, I don't know. I don't mean to sound like defeated. I'm definitely not. It's more like, well, there's a lot. I still get a lot out of the creation. I think the performances, even though it's not, the performances are so less, they're not happening. Yes, I mean, I don't really tour right now. I mean, since the pandemic. Yes, Oneida has played like 4 shows, and I got COVID. But I haven't toured since COVID. I think it's like you have to like recreate your relationship with music like every day. You don't. For me, it's not. It's like, well, why do I still do it? Fuck. I mean, that's a little bit, I'm kind of beyond like having to explain myself. Like, and I don't mean that defensively, but I'm like, I think it's just something I do. I still do it. I have opportunities occasionally. I have great friends, great connections. And I think that you kind of, after a certain point, it's like you get into the room or onto a stage with somebody else and you make something and it resonates and it seems like really good to me. It's like, this is good. I don't know, like, let's do it again. It's like a little bit, I've always thought of things a little bit like, I'm not like a complete, like, what is it, isolated or something. Like, I'm always thinking in terms of ways to create something, record something, build something. So I don't, by now, it's like all part of the same thing. So what I've discovered recently, okay, this is insane, but everything I do, all the music I do, is really just like an advertisement for drum lessons, which is what I get paid to do, which is just like I think I realized that like a few years ago. I was just like, fuck, like where else do I get paid? I mean, I sure I make a little money here and there, but I mean, we're not talking real money. It's like, so like the only thing that I make money doing is drum lessons.
And that's kind of why we ask that question, because I think everyone is asking themselves, okay, I don't see a way to make my music profitable to me. How do I make a living without selling my soul or doing something that I hate every day? And so information like that, I think, is really helpful.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've repeated this story a lot to people, but when I was going to quit my job, I was like having lunches with David First, who's a guitarist and composer. He founded the band, the Note Killers, and he's played with everybody. And he was like a guy, wow, he does all kinds of things. He's got this awesome band, like legendary band that still plays. He's like a composer. He's like, you know, really avant-garde, like microtonal drone pieces. Like, wow, how does he do it? So I'm like having lunch with David. I'm like, how do you do it? He's like, I don't really think it's possible to do it. This is what he told me. And I was like, huh. And like at the time I was kind of like, that sounds like maybe that's not true. But I totally understand what he meant now. I don't really think it's possible. Now, every day I wake up and I do it. You know what I mean? It's just like this bizarre thing. I mean, for people just starting out, you know, I don't think the goal should be, I don't think the goal should be that everything else. The goal should just be the work. If you're not doing the work, which means writing the songs or writing the music or recording the music, then, you know, you've lost. So that you got to prioritize that. And it's hard every day. It's hard. You fail. I fail a lot all the time with that. But the whole thing about a career, and I don't see that as like really a valuable piece of it. I don't know. I mean, I could say, I could look back. Yes, I have a career. I did air quotes for the podcast listeners. But like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, it would seem to me that the kind of music that you play, which is improvisational and at times it feels chaotic and free, is that like a reaction against all the bullshit of 9-to-5 life? Is that just like the type of music that you like, or is there something deeper going on in there? Because it seems as a listener, it's like this music is very, very free.
Well, I mean, you know, it's pretty complicated, right? It's like, I'm not doing it for that, to try to make a statement. The other thing to be really aware of is like so-called free music, right? Is like, basically we're just playing, we are inspired, like all the music that you do as an American is like inspired by Black Americans, right? Or, I mean, it's or Africa or something, right? So-called free improvisation, free jazz, whatever, like it's all coming from that place, right? And there's something like, okay, a white guy from Connecticut, like somehow being inspired by a wide range of, Black American music and trying to play it. I mean, I don't know, it's complicated. So, I think it's just like, what I'm drawn to. There's a certain, okay, some people could call what I do. I mean, I think there's a lot of critique that could go into that. I think, but there is a certain, like, there's a punk element and a free improvisational element where it's kind of like, hey, you don't really need technique, you don't need schooling, to just be able to try to make music. And you're a unique person, and what comes out is going to be unique and special to you, right? But I don't really think about, like, that aspect of it. Maybe I should. I mean, when you're trying to get a grant, they'll say, "Why do you do this?" And it's frustrating. I should know, but it's not. I mean, there's nothing I should say, like, and I'm not trying to disparage myself. I'm not sure, like, what I do is particularly avant-garde or cutting edge or anything like that, right? Maybe. I don't think so, though. There's a lot of that's already happened, So I'm just like a small piece, just like, okay, this is what I do. It's just me. Whether it, I mean, I wouldn't even think about that, It's more just like, hey, is somebody interested in hearing this? Oh, there's a little bit, somebody is. Okay, cool. I don't know if I answered your question, but yeah.
No, you for sure did.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you about an experience that we maybe kind of shared, which is having a medical emergency kind of disrupt your life and take you out of the creative game for some amount of time. And all the things that happen in that time inside of a person, and all the realizations, all the contemplations that occur when you're recovering from something like that. And for me, I kind of had this big moment of having to separate myself and my self-worth and my identity from my ability to create output and being productive, which we're, like, not practiced in our culture at all.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
And it was, for me, like, really liberating and empowering. And I wondered if you went through a similar sort of, I don't know, thought process.
Oh, right. Well, maybe I should have. I think I don't know. That's interesting.
Because, like, at first you're in just, like, survival mode for a while there, when you're just okay, I have to just live, actually. And then you have this whole time where you're okay, but you're still not really able to do anything. And you're not able to, like, I don't know, you don't have energy mentally or emotionally or physically to really get back out. But you still have to keep yourself motivated for yourself and the people that love you to get better and get back out there, whatever that means for you. And not,
there you go.
I think a lot of people don't come back to music necessarily when they have that moment, because it is a time to kind of process, like, what am I doing with my life? But you did come back, and I did too. Yeah. So I wondered, you know, why did we do that? And if you went through that journey too.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, I'll have to put myself back in that place. It was really hard, for sure. I mean, I was in a car accident, for those of you who didn't know. I mean, it was serious, but I mean, there's people have worse ones, but I was like out of commission for about 6 months. I would just say the reason I came back was because Oneida had a tour, and I had to prepare, and it was almost like I just was like, well, let me see if I can do this. And it was the reason that I spent a month and a half just getting ready every day, going down to the studio and just taking it easy, but playing. And that was what brought me back, was just having something to go back to. I mean, I might not have returned if I didn't. And you know, Oneida is very physical and very taxing. In fact, in the middle of it, I was like, wow, I don't know if I should have done this. Like, I was really it was hard. But I did it, and it went well, and it was fun. I mean, it was a lot of fun just to see the guys again. I mean, one thing that happened was Bobby, like, who plays the organ with the band, I mean, he called me before we were leaving, and he was like, I can't do the tour. And I was like so devastated. I like cried, because it was like I couldn't imagine, like, that was all I was looking forward to. But it turned out, I mean, we missed him, but it still was fun, like, and it was good that I did it. I think if I hadn't had that, I might not have recovered in the way that I did. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't feel... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. It sounds like music kind of helps you find ways to set goals for yourself, to create like something to do. And maybe that's valuable in itself.
For sure. I mean, I don't want to like underplay, like, I don't want to make it seem like I don't have some kind of emotional connection to it. I mean, I don't see a way I would do it without that, you know. But I think if I have to like describe it to people, then I would maybe focus on those practical things. Maybe it's too hard to get into the emotional, spiritual side. I don't know.
Well, that's the fun part about our kind of dynamic, I guess, when we talk about it, because I'm a little more psychological, woo-woo, emotional. Yeah. And, you know, we like to balance out sort of the practical and the nuts and bolts and budgeting and whatnot. But that's the whole push and pull of the industry at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, in the news today, not to make this like super timely, but like I saw that Animal Collective canceled their tour. And
I didn't see that.
And they cited financial reasons and like this era of uncertainty with COVID. And you were on tour and you got COVID after, I think, 4 shows, you said. I mean, what is it like being in a band that people want to see and not being able to make any money touring? That's so crazy.
Well, it's, you know, we don't... Well, I don't know if it's that there's that much of a demand to see Oneida. I mean, I think it would be more of a thing for us to just. It's good for us to go to play shows. I think for a band like Animal Collective, like I think it's like they make money doing it. As far as I know, I mean, they maybe not, but you know, so like they like had, I mean, like a real success where you know you sell a lot of records and people go see you. I'm not trying to downplay Oneida. I'm just like it's a totally different thing. For us, it's hard enough just to book the shows. I mean, in terms of making money, well, we're just trying to keep a small studio going. Like we don't even have. It's not even us. It's like we're just part of a place. You know, barely a part of it. So there's nobody gets paid doing Oneida. We've never been paid. It all goes back to the band, and now we're actually, yeah, we don't have any money at the moment. So I mean, we lost money making our new record, right? Like it's fine. Like I mean, it was a good experience, and we, you know, I think it's a good album.
It's a great record.
Yeah, thank you. But you know, it's just insane. It's like the label can't front a recording budget, so we paid for it. You know, I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird situation.
But isn't that interesting that the lines between being like a newcomer with a home studio and zero label support and being you guys is not very far away. It's like,
yes.
And the one thing that you do have is you do have, you know, 25 years of fans and people who love you and people who've been listening to your records. That's the one thing that you do have, and that is valuable.
For sure. Yeah.
And is that like how you kind of judge, no pun intended, but like the success of the success? Because is it like people from Brazil checking it out, or like do you see like the numbers of fans around the world checking it out and you're like, oh, well, at least people are listening to it?
I mean, I hope this doesn't sound like disrespectful or something. I mean, it's cool. I mean, it's great, but I don't really think about that in it doesn't, I don't really get something out of that. I mean, I love that we have fans. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. It's like, but like after 25 years, it's more like, it doesn't like help me make another song. I don't do it for that, and nothing to say that I don't respect if somebody buys the record. I mean, I'm humbled. I'm just like, wow, okay, cool, like that's insane. But I don't think about it. I wouldn't go, like I say, like Spotify has targeted, like, hey, this is where people are listening. I mean, it doesn't really do anything for me. I don't know. What does it matter? I guess. I don't know. I'm not asking that to be a dick. I'm more just like, I'm wondering. I don't know. Like,
well, I mean, if the goal is to of creating an album is for people to hear it, then at least you do have that, you know. But
the goal isn't that. It really isn't. I mean, yes, in a way, in one sense, for sure, right? I don't want to be absurd. Yeah, you want someone to hear it, but it's really like it's more about like it's more about like the accomplishment of doing it is like really the thing. Then like you kind of like you finish it and you're like, okay, then you put it into this other process where it becomes, you know, it's made into a thing, and it's disseminated, and it's nice if somebody likes it, but like it's like yeah, and it is gratifying. There's a level of gratification there, but it's like I feel like it's a tough place to be in if like that's like, I don't know. I totally get what you're saying, and I know I sound crazy, but there's a part of it where I think I have a pretty good handle about who, like, what I make, the music I make is not it's not popular, you know, and it's all like little fine shavings of like, okay, this album, maybe like 25 people bought this one, and then okay, so Oneida record, like, you know, maybe 3,000 people bought it, and then I know it's not even about that anymore, right? It's not about sales. But I mean, that's kind of, it's like, I mean, that's like so small. We are nothing, you know what I mean? So, but I hope I don't sound like a jerk. I hope what we make does make someone feel good. And I mean, you know what I mean? But, I'm not sure. Maybe I really screwed up with this answer, but
no, not at all.
No, you're like processing in real time, which sorry we made you do that. It is a lot to think about though, and it's a lot to work through and process, you know, because you do have to sacrifice a lot to have these experiences of making albums and playing shows, and maybe it's good to just get it out there that's what's happening right now. There's sacrifice involved in getting these experiences.
Oh yeah, okay.
But I wondered
sure.
a little bit about, you mentioned the studio, and I think bands maybe particularly bands who maybe have a little bit of money at a moment and they're like, what should I do with it? There's the option of like making a really expensive record maybe, or buying gear, or going on tour, because as we talked about, there's not a lot of money in that, and you may be actually spending money to do a tour. Do we hire a publicist? I mean, there's a million different ways a band can spend money. But it sounds like the studio is a really valuable tool for you.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, that's the other thing. I mean, we did, 97, when we got the first, when we signed the first, when we made our first record, we got money. I mean, but this is in the 90s. I mean, and we did buy gear, and we did set up a studio, and we made a lot of records like that. But now we don't have that anymore, you know? It's like, well, maybe we should have bought like a building. I mean, we didn't have that much money, you know. I'm not trying to say, but like, you know, like it's like, yeah, like what to invest in. Well, not a publicist, and I much love and respect to publicists out there, but I would say it's important, but I'm not sure, like, the real press and coverage is good for like a resume thing. It's kind of like it can maybe help you get a gig, but it's never going to really sell much. But yeah, Oneida bought a studio, right, back in the day. But, you know, then we got into another situation where we didn't have a good space, and we couldn't set up gear because we had to leave. Yeah, because our studio space is now a Trader Joe's. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. But it is important to, I mean, like, have the means of production is always the key. I think I like to delegate, right? So I like to have a label put something out. But I mean, a lot of people don't do that, and they do great with it. And that's one thing that I'm like, okay, I can't do everything. So I don't know what's a good thing anymore. Oneida really established ourselves. We did do a lot of touring early on, and really you make connections with bands, and that's how we got signed to Jaguar. Back when Jaguar was a very tiny concern, like, if you can believe it, Oneida was briefly the best-selling artist on Jaguar, very briefly, But so that's how we met, Joyful Noise. That's how you met everybody. That's the way it happens. So like the touring, being doing shows, I think is really key. And it helps. I mean, because you make friends and you reconnect, and that's great. I love that. That's something that is really great about travel. Anyway.
Are there any more plans to tour on this record?
Yeah, we're doing something in March in Europe. But we don't really have any other plans.
Well, come to Nashville.
Yeah.
At least two people who will see you.
Oh, okay, cool.
We'll probably even bring at least one person each. So.
Oh, amazing. No, we played. What is it? Exit In? Is that it? Exit In? Yeah. Is it still there?
Yeah, it is.
It's still there?
In a way.
In a way, yes.
In a way, okay.
There's always
it was like that back when we played there.
There's always like threats of it being taken down, or like developers trying to raise the building.
New owners, same name.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
But hopefully it'll get
right on.
historic status and it'll be protected. But Nashville has a history of like not valuing the things that make it great.
Yes, I'd love to. I mean, Tennessee cities of music cities are like that too. Memphis as well.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I mean, I'd love to come back. Totally. I know we'd all love to. So let's hope. I hope I wasn't a downer. Jeez,
No, not at all. This was awesome.
It really is a lot to process. Like, that's why we have the conversations.
Right. Got it.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
This has been awesome.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. Thank you, Caroline and Mike. I appreciate you wanted to talk to me.
Yeah, of course.
And when you come, we'll take you out to dinner if you want.
Wow. Okay. All right. We'll come. All right. That's all we need. Yeah, I didn't even mention
Thanks for listening to Devalued. For more information about our podcast, please visit devalued.show.